So let's go ahead and continue our series on the strongest in Dragon Ball, but this time let's take a bit of a detour. The strongest in Dragon Ball series is meant to highlight the most powerful and most threatening characters in the franchise in various different forms of media based on their various feats. But with this edition of the strongest in Dragon Ball, I want to discuss the most dangerous techniques in Dragon Ball. That is to say, the techniques and the moves in Dragon Ball that are perceived to be the most dangerous, or in some ways the most hacked moves. Moves that could take out opponents that are more powerful than you in some cases, or even moves that are unblockable to others. So the majority of the techniques that we're going to talk about here are techniques that are not really based too much on the strength of the user, like a Kamehameha or a Final Flash or a Masenko. We're talking about the techniques that go far beyond physical strength and energy manipulation. And that about does it for the intro. Let's get to the video now.
This is Lord Beerus, and unless you want your planet destroyed, subscribe to Geekdom 101. It's even better than pudding.
You know, it's interesting that in Dragon Ball Super, we have these hugely powerful gods and angels that seem to be very, very difficult to beat in battle, maybe impossible for some mortals, and the stakes have been raised so high that you forget that Toriyama was already introducing semi-hacked characters all the way back at the beginning of the series. The first example of this came in chapter 17 of the manga when he introduced Toninjinka, otherwise known as Monster Carrot or Boss Rabbit, depending on what dub you watched. Now, there's a whole backstory about Toriyama's creation of this character, which I'll get into in a separate video, but the main technique that he uses is what's referred to as the magic touch. Toninjinka can touch anyone and transform them into a carrot. Now, obviously, he's a comic relief character and he's not anywhere close to being strong in combat, but the series never gives us any sort of limitation on this power. So, hypothetically speaking, he could use that move on a character like Frieza or Beerus and transform them into a carrot and win the fight. Now, obviously, when it comes to combat, he'll never be able to hit Frieza or Beerus because they're way too fast, but Beerus sleeps a lot, and for most of the series, Frieza could not detect energy. So, if Toninjinka snuck up on them, he would be able to beat them, and there's nothing in the series that says otherwise. But this would not be the last time Toriyama would introduce a technique that's very dangerous in spite of the power of the character. In Dragon Ball Manga Chapter 104, we're introduced to the Devil Might Beam from Devilman. Now, this move is a one-hit kill if you have evil or negative thoughts in your heart. Now, obviously, when Devilman tried this on Goku, it would not work because Goku did not have any negative thoughts to exploit. However, if you use this technique on somebody like, Frieza or Cell or Boo, they could be mincemeat. And there's nothing in the series that contradicts this. Why didn't Devilman help out against these villains? Well, I don't know, Toriyama forgot or he didn't want to get involved. We never got a clear answer on that. There is one more technique in Dragon Ball that is a bit of a hack, and that is the Mafuba, otherwise known as the Evil Containment Wave. Now, the reason why I'm putting this in the video is because even though the move does not kill you, it is a move that can be used against an opponent much stronger than you to seal them up in a jar. And this was, of course, done by Mutaito originally on Demon King Piccolo, and it worked, and he was sealed away for a long time, despite the fact that Piccolo was much stronger than him. In Dragon Ball Super, this technique made a great comeback as Trunks was able to take the immortal Zamasu and for a brief time seal him away with the Mafuba. Plus, during Dragon Ball Super's Tournament of Power, we saw Roshi do it on much stronger opponents, and we even saw Frost do it on Vegeta for a time. And thus, this is a move that will work on opponents even if they are stronger than you, and that makes it very dangerous. Now, when it comes to Dragon Ball Z, the techniques that seem to be more hack-based came in deeper into the series near the end when we got to the Buu arc, because in the Buu arc, we're dealing with techniques that are magic based, and when you're dealing with magic and warlocks and things like that, they oftentimes can overcome strength barriers. The first example of this would be Dabuda's spit technique. When the saliva lands on you or whatever it lands on, it turns to stone. As far as we know, once that saliva lands on you, you become a stone statue of your former self. But of course, once he dies, the magic within the saliva wears off, the spell is broken, and you go back to being a flesh creature. But until then, you're stuck as a stone character. So that's an early example of a move that's very dangerous, even though it is dependent on whether or not the user is alive. Probably the best example of an unblockable move in the Buu saga has to be Majin Buu's ability to turn you into candy. This move is unblockable. He even did it on Vegito, and even though Vegito was able to retain his power within the confines of being a coffee candy, he still could not block the fact that he was candy. In fact, the only time this move was even remotely deflected was when the skinny evil Buu blew his breath and reversed it on Fat Buu. But obviously, if the move had connected though, he would have become chocolate, just like how Fat Majin Buu became chocolate based on his own move. So again, that's a move where, yes, it can be deflected, but once it hits you, once it actually connects with you, much like the Boss Rabbit move we mentioned earlier, you are screwed. Now, I want to discuss a few other moves that were introduced in Dragon Ball Z that are kind of borderline, with the first one being Krillin's Kienzan, or Frieza's Energy Cutter, the Destructo Disc, so to speak. This move is effective in that it can certainly do some damage and slice opponents more powerful than you. We saw Krillin actually cut Frieza's tail off, and we saw him slice a little dash in Nappa's face. So yes, the move, for all intents and purposes, should be unblockable until, of course, he tried it on Perfect Cell and it just bounced off of his neck. So that one's kind of a gray area there. It won't always work, especially on somebody who's much, much stronger. The other example of a move like that is Piccolo's Makanko Sapo, the special beam cannon. This is a killing technique. This technique was developed by Piccolo strictly to kill Goku, and we see him use it at the very beginning of Dragon Ball Z to kill Raditz, who was stronger than him at the time. And don't forget that during the Dragon Ball Super Universe 6 arc, Piccolo managed to drill a hole in the arena that was created by Vado. So even though they tell you earlier that that arena should be unbreakable, the ceiling of it, that is, the dome part of it, Piccolo manages to drill a hole through it. That should tell you right there that the Makanko Sapo is pure concentrated energy, and thus, even though it is blockable, should the move connect to a vital organ or to a body part, there's a very good chance that it will destroy it. This is not Piccolo's most powerful technique, but it is his most dangerous. Now, some folks are wondering, well, where's the Genki Dama? Where's the Spirit Bomb? That can't make the list because even though it is meant to destroy evil, both Frieza and Kid Buu were able to deflect that move. And don't forget that Jiren can also deflect it, but Jiren can do just about anything, it seems. That being said, though, very strong move, but I don't want to put it in this list. However, I do want to discuss some other instant kill moves that we saw in Dragon Ball Z. There is Vegeta's Flash Strike Dirty Fireworks move he used on Kui. Also, Vegeta killed Nappa in one blow. Frieza blew up Krillin just by lifting him up in the air and squeezing his palm, and then Krillin blew up. And of course, Babidi was able to use his magic to instant kill his two servants. All these moves pretty much fall into the same category of being one-hit kills, but they're also moves that, while they are very dangerous and should belong on this list, it's not anywhere stated that they would work against an opponent more powerful than who they hit. In other words, Vegeta was obviously stronger than Nappa and Kui, and Frieza was way stronger than Krillin, and with Babidi, of course, it's magic-based, and like I said earlier, magic can overcome strength limitations. So in this instance, those moves are extremely dangerous, but I don't think Frieza could have used that move on Goku, or Vegeta could have used that move on Frieza in the Namek arc, and have it work effectively enough to one-shot kill them. In Dragon Ball Z Movie 12, Gogeta, of course, defeated Janemba by hitting him with the Stardust Breaker, but we really don't know much about that technique in the sense of, yes, it worked on Janemba, who was concentrated evil, and the technique appeared to have destroyed the evil or removed it from the Demon Kid, but I don't think we know enough about that technique and about Gogeta's limitations based on just that one movie to really talk about it too much, but I do want to note it in the video here. When it comes to Dragon Ball GT, there's a handful of moves that fall into the gray area and moves that do appear to be unblockable. For example, General Ruldo freezes Trunks. That, to me, from what we've seen, should not be blockable, but maybe it is. Then also, don't forget the Para Para Boogie. The Para Para brothers can control you with that move, but we've never really seen the move do any real damage, unless maybe you force someone to tap dance off a ledge or something, but I doubt falling off a cliff would kill Goku, so I'm not putting it on the list. But one that I think is going to be talked about is Baby's ability to infect people. It's close to being unblockable, but not flawless. We've seen examples of characters escape the assimilation, so it's very dangerous, and especially with what he actually did with it in that arc, but it's definitely not flawless. Frieza's finger death beam is also dangerous, but Goku managed to block it. Same thing with Goku's Dragon Fist. It was blocked by Omega Shenron. Also, self-destruction appears to be dangerous, but when you look at the series, it never really worked except for on Yamcha, so I don't want to count those. Dragon Ball Super, however, introduced a number of new techniques that appear to be legitimately some of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous in all of Dragon Ball. The first of which being Hit, the assassin Hit. If you're going to be an assassin for 1,000 years, you better develop a way to kill off people without being spotted. And obviously the time skip allows him to do that, but when you combine the time skip with a carefully orchestrated pinpoint precision blow directly to a vital organ, you are history. This move killed Goku in Dragon Ball Super for a very short time. If the assassin hits you in your vital spot, you are dead. And that makes this move ridiculously dangerous. And don't forget that Hit also has the ability to create a time cage or a time vacuum and trap you in it. And thus far, the only person that we've seen escape it is Jiren. Because like I said earlier, Jiren can do just about anything. Heck, maybe I should just add Jiren's existence to the list of most dangerous moves because, yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. But Hit does not have the most dangerous move in Dragon Ball Super. We got a couple more to cover. First of all, let's talk about the Hakai. Now, in the Tournament of Power, we saw the Pride Trooper Toppo evolve into God of Destruction levels and perform what looked like a Hakai ball with dark Hakai destruction energy. And this move was blocked in Dragon Ball Super, and Vegeta actually punched right through it. Now, I do believe that this could be a retcon of what the Hakai technique originally was, or more so what I would like to believe is that Toppo is new at being a God of Destruction, and thus he has not been able to master the Hakai technique, and as a result of him not being able to master the move, he can't really instant kill you like we saw Beerus do to Zamasu, or like we saw Seadra do to an entire city in Dragon Ball Super. When a God of Destruction, who's actually a God of Destruction, uses the Hakai, it's never been blocked, and it appears to be an instant kill move, but it's beyond just an instant kill. It actually wipes you away from existence. However, like I said in my previous video that I did a few months ago about the Hakai technique, there's no evidence that it works on somebody who's more powerful than you. So Beerus just can't go around Hakaiing angels and the Grand Priest and Zeno. He doesn't have the power to do that, even though some fans think he can. That's not the case at all. It's never stated in the series that Beerus or any of these gods have that kind of ability. But that being said, Toppo's Hakai is without question weaker than Beerus's. But don't get it twisted. There is a scene earlier where Seadra let one of his minions borrow some of his Hakai energy and bring it to Earth to take out Frieza, and Frieza was able to deflect it and control it. Understand that Hakai energy, destruction energy, is not the same thing as the destroy, destruction Hakai technique. They are not the same thing, so Frieza doing that was impressive, but it remains to be seen if he can ever block a Beerus Hakai. I really don't think so. And it's cool because in the Dragon Ball Super manga, we saw some more of the God of Destruction techniques, including Vermouth's little card move, which looked pretty cool, but we never really saw it do anything, so I can't really discuss it on this video because it's not that dangerous, even though I'm sure it would hurt a mortal. Without a doubt, the most dangerous technique in Dragon Ball, the entire spectrum of the franchise, is Zeno's deletion. Zeno's version of the Hakai, where he can literally delete an entire universe or an entire multiverse like we saw at the end of the Future Trunks arc, is without question the most dangerous move in Dragon Ball history. The Omni King is not a trained fighter, he's not a warrior whatsoever, and yet with one finger he can wipe away billions of lives, endless amounts of planets and stars and galaxies, and multiple universes. Nobody can screw around with Zeno. And that's going to do it for this edition of The Strongest in Dragon Ball. Are there any dangerous techniques you think I should have put on here? Let me know in the comments down below and list your reasons why. And as always, I thank you for watching.